Once upon a time, in a grand kingdom surrounded by lush green forests, there lived a young princess. She was known across the land for her beauty and kindness. Yet, she possessed a restless heart, longing for adventure beyond the castle walls. One bright morning, dressed in a flowing gown of shimmering gold, the princess ventured deep into the royal gardens, where a crystal-clear well stood. Its waters so pure, they reflected the sky like a mirror. In her hands, she held a golden ball, her most treasured possession, a gift from her father, the king. Joyfully, she tossed the ball into the air, watching it glisten under the sunlight. Higher and higher it went, until, alas, her grip slipped, and the ball tumbled beyond her reach, plunging into the depths of the well. Gasping in despair, she rushed to the well's edge, peering into the water below. The ball had vanished into the deep, its golden glow swallowed by darkness. Overcome with sorrow, she sat beside the well, tears welling in her eyes. Just then, a strange yet gentle voice echoed from below. "Why do you weep, fair princess? What troubles your heart?" Startled, the princess looked around, but there was no one in sight, until her gaze fell upon the water. There, perched on a smooth rock, sat a small green frog, his bright eyes twinkling with curiosity. The princess hesitated before speaking, for she had never seen such a peculiar creature address her so boldly. "My golden ball, it has fallen into the well. I shall never retrieve it." The frog tilted his head, considering her words. Then, with a knowing smile, he spoke. "Fear not, princess. I can fetch your golden ball. But what will you give me in return?" The princess, eager to have her treasure back, quickly replied, "Anything you desire, dear frog. Jewels, silks, even my royal crown. Just bring back my ball." The frog chuckled, shaking his head. "I have no need for riches or crowns, but if you promise to let me dine with you at your table, drink from your cup, and sleep upon your pillow, I shall dive into the well and return your golden treasure." The princess hesitated, unsure of the strange request. But thinking little of it, she nodded hastily. Yes, I promise whatever you ask. Just please fetch my ball." Without another word, the frog took a mighty leap and disappeared into the well. The princess waited, her heart pounding as the water rippled. Moments passed, then suddenly, plop! The frog emerged, the golden ball clutched in his webbed hands. With a joyful cry, the princess grabbed her ball, holding it tightly against her chest. But as the frog looked up at her expectantly, she turned on her heel and ran back toward the castle, laughing with relief, forgetting all about her promise. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the great dining hall of the castle was filled with warmth and laughter. The princess dined beside her father, the king, delighting in the grand feast before her. But just as she lifted a goblet to her lips, a peculiar sound echoed through the hall. Tap, tap, tap. A soft croak followed. "Princess, princess, open the door. Have you forgotten what you swore?" The hall fell silent. The princess's cheeks flushed with embarrassment. The king, his brow furrowed, turned to his daughter. "What is the meaning of this?" With hesitation, the princess recounted her encounter at the well, confessing the promise she had made. The king listened intently before nodding solemnly. "A promise must never be broken, my child. You must honor your word. Invite the frog inside." Reluctantly, the princess stepped to the grand doors and opened them. There, on the marble floor, sat the tiny frog, looking up at her expectantly. With a deep sigh, she allowed him in. At the dining table, the frog ate from her golden plate and drank from her silver goblet, just as she had promised. Though she wrinkled her nose in distaste, she remained silent, for her father's gaze reminded her of her duty. Later that night, as the candles flickered low, the frog followed the princess to her chambers. "You wish to sleep upon my pillow as well?" The frog nodded. With great reluctance, she lifted him onto her silk pillow, lying as far away as she could. She closed her eyes, hoping to forget the strange guest beside her. But just before sleep took her, she heard a sound, a soft shimmer, like the chime of a distant bell. Startled, she opened her eyes. Where the frog had been, there now stood a handsome young prince. His eyes filled with kindness and wonder. The princess gasped, sitting upright. The prince smiled. "You have broken the spell, dear princess. An enchantress once cursed me to live as a frog until a kind soul honored a promise made from the heart. You have set me free." A wave of understanding washed over the princess. She had learned a great lesson, that true kindness is not simply in words, but in actions. The next morning, the prince was welcomed by the king and queen, and news of his return spread across the kingdom. In time, he and the princess became dear friends, and as the seasons passed, their bond deepened into something far greater. And so, with hearts full of joy, they lived happily ever after, proving that sometimes the greatest treasures are not of gold, but of honesty, kindness, and keeping one's word. And so, dear listener, remember, promises once made should never be broken, for they may hold the power to change lives in ways we never expect.